Hello, this is Dr. C, and we are going to install Pip and Pygame, getting ready for Module 4's lab. Well, here you can see I've typed in the command that's at the top of the screen, python space /m space pip space install space -u space pip. And you can see that it downloaded it. That's what the bar that says 100%, and it installed it. And it says successfully uninstalled the old version. Well, let's take a look at that. So you go to where your program files and apps are, and if you're in Windows 10, you'll go to that entry field, that search field, and type command. Started to open idle. And then change your directory wherever you are. It's a CD space, and if you're on a different drive, you have to use this /d qualifier. And then, of course, you're going to say, in this case, I'm going to go to C://. Okay? And there we are. Now, I want to put in that command. And I can't just copy and paste it from Microsoft PowerPoint because it will give me all kinds of unprintable characters. So instead, I'm going to grab it from, I've saved it in a notepad, and I will just copy it from here because it's raw text. And I can come over here, drop my cursor in the command window, right click, select paste, and there it is. I can hit enter. Oh, it says it has an unprintable character. Well, if this keeps happening to you, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, don't get dismayed, just type it. Earlier it was working fine, right now it's not. And there we are. It says I'm already up to date. Okay, so I don't have to download and reinstall, and in fact I've done it several times. For you, it will go through this process, and let's take a look at the next step I have here. So the next step is to check on Pygame. So what if I grab the instructions for Pygame? Let me check those. Okay, and I could indeed right click and try that again, right? But if that's not going to work, and you notice I'm still getting the unprintable file name, so let me just type python -m pip install and Pygame. You'll notice this time I'm not putting in the -u qualifier, and I'm not putting in the user qualifier. I want this to be available for anyone who logs into my computer, so for all users. Okay, so no qualifiers. And I'll hit enter. You notice it says it's already satisfied. It's already there, so I don't have to go grab it again. All right. Let's look at our next instruction. We could upgrade it. What if we had an outdated version? Well, we need to find the WHL file. You can go from the source file too, and it'll create this, but this is the fastest and easiest way to install it. And you would go to this site. So let's grab this and open that site. And I think I have it open, but let's take a look, right? I will just open it again. And here we are. Now I will hit the Control and plus key so you can see it a little better. And you will notice this first one I do not want. I'm not using a Mac, right? But if you are, that's for you. I'm not using Linux, right? And I am using Windows, but not a 32-bit. And for those of you who keep wondering, how do I know if I'm on a 32-bit? Well, if you have File Explorer open, let's say I have File Explorer open, and I right-click on my name computer and set Properties. This tells me what I'm using, and I can see I have a 64-bit system right here. I'll put a little thing underneath it so you can see that. Okay, so that tells me I need a 64-bit version. That's the quick way of figuring that out. And so I would be downloading this version right here. Let me grab, I don't want to click it, so there we go, my handy dandy location. Next, once it's downloaded, I have to know where I put it, right? And by the way, if the link I give you in these slides that I'm going to post in class for you, you can always search for download space pygame space WHL. Okay, to upgrade in the command shell, well, first off, I need to go to the location where I downloaded that file. So if I click this, I guess I'll go ahead and do it. It is fast. Save file. And let's say I saved it right here, and sure enough, that's where it is, right? I'm just going to grab this location and copy the address. So I'm right-clicking in the address field, right up here at the top, copy address. And I'm going to bring over my notepad again, so I want to take a look and see what I just copied. Right-click and paste. That's the URL, the location, excuse me, the address. It's not a web location, it's on my drive, right? For where I've installed it today. Now I changed my mind about where I install things, so that's why you want to know where did you install it. So let me grab that. It's still copied, it's still on my clipboard. So I'm going to type cd space /d for changing the drive, the device, and then I'm going to say I'm going to not right click and paste. I am going to right click and paste. I'm not going to say Control V. Okay? Enter key. Okay, now I'm pointing to the correct location. So my pygame command should work. Let's give it a try. Now in this case, I want to upgrade it. So let me look at my slides again. And here on this slide, I tell you everything I just did. So you can see it step by step. So let's see, here is the command. I'm going to grab that. And I think what's happening is we're getting an extra space at the end or something. So let me see here. Okay. So here's my command. And you'll notice it's once again Python -m. It's calling pip. And pip's going to do the install, but this time it's not just an install, it's going to do an upgrade. Notice, and that's 2 hyphens there, and then pygame. Now it's possible that when I put this in Word, in PowerPoint took off the hyphen, it changed that, and this should be 1. So it changed what my characters mean. That may be my problem. And by the way, if you're wondering where am I getting some of these instructions, we have them in our class. Let me pull that up for you. And we have it in Exploration 3. You get out of the save. Here we go. And it was in that Exploration in Module 3, the add-on packages at the bottom. And we have all of these. We have pip. We're not going to use tkinter this term, but it's very popular. We're using pygame, and then in module 5, we're going to use pygol. So next week we'll be using pygol too. Now I want to give a little shout out to Bryson Payne, who came up with this idea of using pygame, and he publishes it in his book, Teach Your Kids to Code. So let's take a look. So our commands are here. And of course I only have the install one, so we're going to use the upgrade one. So let's put that in. Let's see if that works here. We're going to paste. Now make sure, oops, notice if it's not giving me the correct, so make sure you have on your clipboard this, right? So I will copy, and if it doesn't work, I will type it. There we go. Ready? Okay, so it says it's already up to date. Of course, I'm going to get that. Let's take a look. I have an example of what it looks like when I installed it. So let's see. Let me enlarge this. So here we are installing pygame when I did the upgrade. So the first time you upgrade, this works fine, but if you're going to do it in future, you have to uninstall and do a variety of other things. I'm in the middle of grading, so I don't want to uninstall all my stuff, right? But here we are, installing collected packages. So it reads that downloads file, the wheel file, and then it's It's installing. It's very quick. And then here's what happens. You can type in a test to test and see how well yours is working. And we have these instructions here in our class. And it's just this command right here. So I'm going to grab that. Guess what? I'm going to once again put it in a notepad because I like to make sure it's text only, that it doesn't have any strange formatting or anything else. I'm going to highlight and copy it. Oops, and I didn't grab the P, did I? And then back to my handy dandy command window. Here we go. And we will test this out. We will take a look. Now I'm going to, you know what I'm going to do? I just ask for a new slide. There we go. So I can have a nice blank backdrop. And then I will go ahead and paste that in and hit enter. It's very noisy, by the way. It's only for a few seconds. You can see that Pygame is working, right? And that's really our goal. But what if, so how are we going to run our program? Let's take a look at that real quick. So I'm going to call up idle. And if you were wondering where are all these things located and how do I find where my Python installation is, and just ask for idle. Then right click up here and say open file location. And that brings up this folder. So here's mine, and of course all of these packages in version 3 of Python are being installed within the library, lib, and then you scroll down and it's in site packages. So if you wanted to check, you can see them here. Here's pip and the version. Here's pygame and the version. And you can see I'm running pygame also. I have others as well. So if you're wondering what is a package, well, you know how we write these Python scripts and we save them. Those are modules. And then when you put a bunch of modules together, and if we looked inside these, we could see them, right? All these little Python bits of code, you know, these files, these scripts all together, these are modules, and when they're packaged together, they're a package, right? I know, I'm stating the obvious, right? But so why do we use this? Because then we don't have to write all these resources to be able to do all these cool things, with including design a game. Okay, so let's run let's run the answer to our program and see how that works. Okay, so I'm going to exit out of here. And by the way, when I exit out of the command shell, it's going to take me out of everything I'm currently doing. So let's take a look. And of course, did I open idle or did I accidentally close it? I might have closed it. So let's bring it back up again. Yeah, I probably didn't ask for it. And here's the shell. And many of you have realized that you can write commands in here and run them interactively, but we want to write a script for all of our labs and save it so we can turn in our homework. So let's let me see if I have it in my list here. Hey, we'll use this one. Okay, so I'll scroll down so I'm not giving away all the answers, right? But I'm going to run this so we can see the behavior of this program. And remember, the goal with this lab is not to design a game per se. It is to call this pygame resource, see right there, import pygame, and then we are going to create a list called colors. And in this list, we're going to list at least 3 colors. That's all you really need are 3 colors. You must have 3 colors in your list. And of course, we're not going to call them by name. We're going to define what color means using RGB. So let's take a look at it running so you can see its behavior. So I'm going to say run module. And all it does is it brings up this blank box. And you might think, well, we're done. That wasn't very impressive. No. You have to hold down the left cursor button, and when you do, it clicks a dot. The scroll wheel, if you click that, it creates a yellow one, and if you click the right cursor, you get blue. Now, what if you hold them down? I'm going to hold down the left cursor and drag my hand, and I happen to have a mouse, so this is easier, right? I can draw, right? And of course, I can have some fun with this. So we've created a simple little drawing app, and until we close it, we can keep drawing. In our program, the way it's written right now, we're not using a clear command, so we're not clearing it, we just keep updating it. So we keep calling update, which allows us to draw more dots. And all this is doing is connecting the dots as I hold down one of the buttons, right? And I'm just moving my hand to, of course, make all this drawing happen. So your mission is to define a red, a yellow, you could use teal if you prefer, or green, and a blue. So I need 3 colors, and then I will run your lab and test it, or your instructor will in future classes. When you're done, you're just going to close it. And of course, you're going to get a terrible little error here because it's going to say, my drawing box disappeared, right? And of course, we're not going to worry about that. Just close the shell. Okay. Now, let's take a look at our slides and see if we're done yet. So I'll go back to slideshow. All right. So here we're talking about the goals of the lab, and the lab has like 6 steps, and I've numbered them. And usually I have an example right near the step. So you look at the example and then you say, using similar syntax, a similar way of spelling it, I need to define, I give you red and you get to define the center color and the blue color, the right color, right? The center is the scroll wheel, in case you're wondering. So if ever you see programs that say, what is the center or button 2? In this case, it's button 1, button 2, button 3. And button 1 is the right cursor, excuse me, the left. The left is first. Oops. So I have the order backwards here. I'll have to change those. But anyways, left, center, and right. Okay. Now, to define the color red, we're using RGB. And RGB stands for red, green, blue. And instead of hexadecimal, we're going to use a number between 0 and 255. So if we say 255, we mean give me the most red that's possible, that I'm calling max, maximum red, right? And of course, no green and no blue is 0, right? That means an absence of green and blue. So now we have to define 2 more colors, because I give you the first one. And you'll notice they're in parentheses. The reason they have to be in parentheses is all 3 of those numbers have to work together to define the color red. So we have to know that they're grouped. That's why the parentheses matter. Even in your list, you must have parentheses, okay? Well, blue is 0, 0, 255, because that means a lot of blue. Because remember, RGB stands for red, green, blue. It's the first letter of each color. And yellow, if you're going to do yellow like I did, that means a lot of red and a lot of green, but no blue. Now you could vary this. Your colors can have a little bit of red and a little bit of blue or a lot of blue, and you could go for purple, or you could have lavender, you know, by reducing the amounts. Once you decide on your colors, you have to put in a color list, because you're gonna read from the list and say button 1 equals this, the first location in the list. Button 2 refers to the second location in the list, and button 3 to the third, right? And remember, when you add these, the way you define a list is you say the name of the list equals, and then in square brackets, the contents of a list goes inside it. Now remember, whenever we talk about color, we have to use our parentheses. So yours is going to look, notice at the bottom, it says colors equals, and then in square brackets, right, you see the color in parentheses. Well, you're going to have a comma after the color red, which is 25500. You're going to have a comma after the parenthesis, and then you'll have the next color. Now you can have a space between your comma and the next color. That's for humans to read it. The computer will ignore that. Okay. So you're going to list all 3 of them. That's very simple, but at first, you know, the first time you do it, it's like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. So that's why you practice. I recommend that as you're writing your code, write a little bit of it and test it. You don't have to write all of it first. You could comment out any of the parts that are not working. That just means put a hashtag on the far left. and then run just button 1 and see how that works. Try that out. Well, I'm Dr. C, and this has been a quick look at the Module 4 lab and how to install Pip and Pygame. Remember, when you're executing it, I think one of the challenges some of the class had was you have to know, you have to edit it with idle. So let's pull up our lab folder. Let's see, where do I have that? I'm gravitating to it. I'll bring it up just 1 second and then we'll finish up. Of course, I can't show you all my mess behind the scenes, right? So if I was going to run this, okay, here I am in my folder. I would right click on the file name, right, the Python program, say edit with idle, and then click on that. Always bring it up like this when you're going to run it. Don't run it in Anaconda or some other tool or whatever, because it may or may not execute the packages, and it may or may not bring up this pop-up window. It might have a restriction. So if you're getting an error about that, always run it from the file name. Make sure you're in idle first. Okay. Now, I'm not saying the other things won't work, but I'm saying why torture yourself? And on that note, I'll say good night. Have a great time with this. Next time, we'll use Pygame, and you'll have some fun with that too. Take care. Bye-bye.